To the top 100 games, and we're now doing 90 to 81. So let's just get started right into it. So in the number 90 position, I have Skull. So Skull is a really small, simple game. So everybody gets like a square tile, like a large square tile, and then 4 coasters. So, and then the artwork in it is really beautiful. Let me show you what some of them looks like. So you got all these gorgeous artwork on it. The backside all looks the same, but each player has a different style. And then in the front of it, you'll have 3 flowers and 1 skull. And the goal, it's like a bluffing game. So you're trying to bid on revealing coasters and not revealing a skull. So you'll take turns putting a coaster down in front of you. So it could be a flower, it could be a skull. You don't know. Well, you know, the other peoples don't know. And then everybody goes around and put coasters in front of them. There's at least 1 coaster in front, the bidding can start, but then you would put your second coaster and so on. And then until somebody bid and says, okay, 4. And that means they think they can flip 4 coasters without revealing a skull. Now, they always have to reveal all the coasters that are in front of them first. So sometimes you'll bid like, okay, I'll bid 3, hoping somebody's going to outbid you, because then you're going to look like, okay, then they're going to come and flip my coasters because I bid, so they'll think I don't have the skull, but I really do. So you can bluff that way as well. And it's you never know what's really going on. So if you're able to successfully bid and flip the coasters without revealing a skull, then you flip your big tile over 1 time. If you ever do that 2 times, you win the game. Now, if you bid and reveal coasters and you do reveal a skull, well, then you lose 1 of your coasters. And so you play until you're either eliminated, like last man standing, everybody got eliminated, or that you were successful twice. It's so neat. And this is one that my stepdaughter loves to pull out all the time. It'll play up to 6 players, so it works well in like a slightly bigger group setting, but really enjoy this one. Then in number 89 position is Onitamo. Onitama is cool. It's a 2-player game, and you're one versus the other, and it plays like chess. Like you have this small, and I'll show you a picture here. So you have the small board you're going to be playing, and then you have your characters that you're going to be playing. So you have the master in the middle and 2 of the apprentice on either side. Now, all of them will move the same way depending on the card that you have. The card determines the movements you can do. So you'll have 2 cards in front of you, and then the other player will have 2 cards, and then there's 1 card in the middle. So at any game, there's 5 movements that can be done. And then on your turn, you're going to pick which movements you want to do. Say, okay, well, I'm going to do this card. So in case here, like let's say we got the crab. So if you do the crab movement, the black dot shows where your the piece that you're going to be moving, where that's located, and then the gray location shows where you'd be moving to. So if you do the crab, you can go 1 forward or 2 on either side, and you can't land on top of your own piece. But if you land on top of where your opponent's piece is, then that piece gets eliminated. So that's good for you. The goal is to either eliminate the other player's master or to get your master in the other player's temple. So if you can do one of those 2 things, you win. Now, one thing I didn't mention is when you do your action, so if you did the crab movement, that crab card now goes in the middle, and you take the card that's in the middle and it comes into your side, and those are your 2 movements you can do now. So it's all public knowledge. You can see which 2 movements they can do, and they can see, it's like, well, if I do this movement, that means or in 2 turns, they'll be getting this card and they'll be able to do this crab movement, and then that might interfere over here. So like, it's really interesting. Like I said, very chess-like, but a lot simpler to grasp and to get playing, but I really like this one. Then in number 88 position is Oh My Goods. Now, Oh My Goods is small. It's a small card, like it's a small box with cards in it. It takes no room at all. But this is one of those that's like big play feel anyways. And what I really like about this one is like the multi-use cards. Because on the card, and you'll notice, so on the side in that white area on the left side, there's a resource of some sort. So you can use that card for the resource when it's in your hand. Now, some of them also, you'll notice, has a little sun on it because you're going to be playing through the market, and the market's going to be like public cards that you can utilize. So you're going to start with the morning market, and you're going to flip a card until, I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 suns shows up. And then that's it. So those are the cards you have access to. And then you're going to decide what the actions you want to concentrate on. So you could be like, okay, well, I'm going to try to build this. And then you get to decide if you're going to do it sloppily with just the one worker, or if you're going to really apply. Now, the benefit of doing it sloppy is you can do it with one less resource, because maybe all the resources you need aren't on the table yet, but there's an evening market coming and you're hoping it'll come up. So then you could do that just to kind of have some leeway, and in case it doesn't show up, you can still do your action. Or you could fully commit, say, yeah, I think it'll come up, and so I'm going to do it. So it's going to give you a bit better benefit. Or you can do it if you already have all the resource, and of course you would do it that way. Then you do the evening market when the sun shows up again, then and that ends the market, and that's the cards available in the market. And then it's also engine building, because you'll have like, okay, well, I have this one. This one creates glass, but then I can utilize the glass and put them into this one that's going to create stained glass. And stained glass is actually worth more. And then all the cards that are on the top is, you would flip it on its back, and then it's like the dollar value of that resource, or the resource itself, right? So then if you can kind of use it for the money, and then it's like, okay, well, over here it's worth 4 coins, but over here was worth 2. So like the manipulating of all the things that you can do, and then you can hire new workers to kind of that you can activate as well. Like the whole thing is so neat. I really, really enjoy this game, and that's Oh My Goods. Then in number 87 position, I have Diceborn Heroes. So this year I've got to play Diceborn Hero quite a few times, and with the designer, which was great, because I ran into my friend Keith a few times at a few different locations, and I was like, hey, and then the one he was showcasing his game, so I got to play the sample quite a few times, but I never got to finish the game because I was volunteering at that event as well. I kept getting called away, which is perfectly fine, but I just never got to do a full game, but it was neat. And then we went to Gob Fest together, and I sat with him. I was like, okay, I want to play this game, the full thing, all the way through. And he actually had a book of scenarios that's like a prototype still, that is all different scenarios you can play with this game. So instead of having the board, the books becomes the board, and each level you turn the page to get to the second level. And it was so cool. And the one that we ended up doing was, we got called into a museum because the paintings were haunted. So there's ghosts in the paintings, and we had to defeat the ghosts and kind of defeat the big monster that was kind of like bringing them out or whatever. But so the story was super cool. And I finally got to get past the first level, because in this game, you start with your character and you have so many dice you start with. And then you'll roll your dice and see what you have. And then you get to decide, okay, well, I'm going to activate this ability or this ability. Or like some of them is like, okay, well, if you roll like a 5 or 6, you can do this one. Okay, great. I'm going to activate this one, and that's a better ability. And if you don't, it's like, all right, fine. Then I'll take my red dice and activate the smaller ability or whatever. And then you do this and you attack the monsters, and then you can kind of take damage or poison and different things like that can happen. And then like depending on the dice that you select, to kind of select, like it'll determine the order of who goes first between like the bad guys and you, and so on. But what's really neat is once you finish the first level and defeat the monsters, your character will level up. So you get your character card, like, because you have a card, and it's like, okay, so if you're this character, now you have the option of being this thing, or you flip it over, or this thing, and it kind of decide, okay, well, I'll be this. And then you kind of get special abilities that's kind of unique to that particular character. And you've kind of evolved and leveled up into something new. And then you'll do that again. So your character changes as you go. And depending on what you pick and what you end up choosing, it'll change as well. So sometimes we play is like, okay, nobody can heal. This one would allow me to heal. And you're a little bit weak. So let's do that and see if we can heal. And if you ever take full damage, then you're knocked out. So on your turn, you have to roll the dice until you roll doubles, and then you're kind of back in the game. And the one time I played, I was knocked out. They're battling the monsters because this is a co-op game. And then I'm rolling, trying to get back in the game, and I never did. And I think we got defeated. But it was so neat. I really, really enjoyed this game. So that's my number 87. And then in number 86 position, I have Between Two Castles of Madkin Ludwig. So Between Two Castles of Madkin Ludwig, it resembles very closely to Between Two Castles. Now, Between Two Castle is you'll play tiles on the city on this side and on this side, and then you're kind of building a 4x4 grid, and depending on where things are connected, how they're going to score. And then your score is the lowest of the two. So you're trying to make them both as good as possible, and then the other players are doing the same thing. So you'll be playing with player A over here and player B over here, then they're playing with player C on their side. So it's not cooperative, but it is. So you are playing cooperative. Everybody is trying to build the best castle they can, but the person who scores the highest, which will be their lowest of the two options, wins the game. It's really interesting. And Between Two Castles, Madkin Ludwig does the same thing, but instead of having a 4x4 grid, you're building a castle, and you're building floor by floor. So you would start by the main floor, and then you can build in the basement, and then you can build above, but you can't build above if there isn't anything underneath. And then there's special abilities as well. It's like once you've, okay, great, well, we've unlocked this, and now we have the ability of being able to do this. So it's a little bit more in depth and involved than just Between Two Cities. Now, I still really like and then I'll show you pictures here, sorry. I still really like Castle Madkin Ludwig. To me, that plays completely different because you're building the blueprint of a castle. But this one is really neat. So I actually got rid of Between Two Cities to get Between Two Castles of Madkin Ludwig. Mainly with this one too, it came with amazing trees. So playing this game was super quick. So you pull it out, take the lids off, and then it's set to go. You just play. So getting it played is super easy. The play is neat, and it's kind of interesting how you're playing with both players, but it's competitive but co-op somehow. I really, really enjoy this one. And then in number 85 position, I have King of Tokyo. We play this one so much. This is Lily's favorite game. This is also the game that my brother gifted me that kind of got me into the hobby. And this is it's kind of a streamlined, simple game. It's a battle game. You're a monster trying to destroy Tokyo. Everybody's trying to destroy Tokyo, but it's competitive. You want to be the one that destroys Tokyo. So in order to win the game, you have to collect 20 victory points, and you do that by going into Tokyo and staying in Tokyo or rolling points, or to be the last monster standing. So you're going to be attacking each other as well, trying to get rid of the competition, I guess. It's really neat. And it's Yahtzee dice battle style game, right? So you got your dice, you roll them. You can have an attack or a heart that's going to heal you, or a lightning bolt that's going to give you energy cube, which is the currency for purchasing cards that's going to give you special abilities. And you can roll, what else can you roll? Oh, the numbers, 1, 2, and 3. And if you roll 3 of the same one, then you get that many in victory points. So you're trying to roll for that as well. Now, when you're in Tokyo, if you're the monster in Tokyo and you roll an attack, you hit every monster that is out of Tokyo. So if you roll 2, every monster that's not in Tokyo takes 2 hits. But everybody else that's out of Tokyo, when they roll and you do an attack, they hit you in Tokyo. So everybody's aiming for the monster in Tokyo. Now, if you ever take damage in Tokyo, you have the option of getting out. And the person who attacked you has to go in. So the drawback of being in Tokyo is you can't heal there. You can't roll hearts and utilize it to increase your health. So if you're like, hey, I'm getting low, I got to get out of Tokyo so I can heal, you got to do that outside of Tokyo. Then the new person goes in. When you go into Tokyo, you get 1 victory point. But if you start your turn in Tokyo, you get 2 victory points. So there's a benefit in staying in Tokyo as well. Super neat. And then the characters are so whimsical. You know, like you have the mecha dragon, that's like a robot dragon. And then you have over here the space penguin, there's a cat one. And there's a bunch of expansion packs too that you can get that has a bunch of other characters as well. It's really neat. I really like this one. In number 84 position is Cacao. So this is one that I purchased this past year, maybe the year before. I've played it for the first time around my birthday in 2022. So, because I remember I had COVID, it was just me and the kids isolating at home. So I was like, hey, come play with me. And then me and Patrick ended up playing it. And it was neat. This game is so neat. So it's a tile laying game because you have these village tiles that are in your hand. So, and then you have 2 tiles that gets flipped. So you have your village tile, the other players have their village tiles, and then you have like the common tiles that you'll be playing. And you got to do checkered, right? So you'll put like a common tile, a village tile, common tile, village tile, and so on. Now the common tiles will have plantation where you can build a cacao, or it'll have the market where you can go and sell the cacao, or it'll have a gold mine where you can go and collect gold, or there's temples where you can go, and then whoever has the most influence on the temple at the end of the game gains that victory point, and so on, right? Like, so there's all the different things. But what's really interesting is on your tiles. So, and you have different ones. So it could be that you have 1 meeple symbol on all sides, or it could be like 1 and 2 and 1, or 3 and 1, or like, so it's all distributed differently, but it's going to be where there's 4 meeples total. And when you place your meeple or your village tile, the meeple that is touching the common tiles that you're placing it on, that how many times you get to activate that tile. So if it's a plantation that has 1 plantation and you put 1 meeple on there, you get to collect 1 cacao. If you had 2 meeples, then you would get to collect 2. Now if it's a 2 plantation on the same tile and you put 2 meeples facing that way, you actually get to collect 4 now. So it's interesting the way you're trying to place the tiles, trying to activate the different things. You can only hold up to 5 cacao at one time. Then you have to go to the market and sell it. And then you have on your board like this meeple that kind of goes down the river because you start at a negative score, but the further up you go on this river, the more, or I guess the lesser point you lose until you get into some positive points. And it's neat. I really, really enjoy this one. And it was simple to learn and play, and then kind of straightforward. I've played it at 2 and it was great. And then I've played it at 4 and it was great. So just really like this one. Number 83 is Adrenaline. So this is actually my sister's game. And it was one that I had looked into. I was like, do I want it? Do I not want it? And then somebody was selling it. But then I ended up not buying it. And then my sister ended up with it. And then I was visiting her and I was like, well, let's play some games. So I was looking at her collection. I pulled a few and I was like, I want to learn this one. So I brought it up. She's like, I don't know how to play. But my sister's not a big fan of learning new games. So she's like, you learn it and then we'll play it with us and then we'll know how to play. So she ended up, I was like, well, and then the instructions were a little bit more in depth than what we had time for. She said, we'll take it home. We'll come over to your house tomorrow, then learn the game and then we could play. So no problem. So that's what we ended up doing. And this is a really interesting kind of like arena battle game. So it's all about like line of sight and you going in there and then you're attacking each other. So it's almost like laser battle or something. And then you'll have like, you get kind of, I don't know, spawn in one spot, then you go grab a weapon and then you kind of go, but then when you use up your weapon, it's empty. And then you have to either refill it or grab a new weapon that comes like where it's refilled and it has ammos and stuff. So it's interesting. And then everybody has like damage tokens, like a little teardrop of their own color. So when somebody takes a hit, then you give them like the hits from your color so they can see who's been attacking them the most. And then when they get, I guess when they die, but like you respawn afterwards. So when they die, whoever gave you the most hit gets so many points. Whoever did the kill shot gets so many points as well. And then you're kind of maneuvering around this arena, and then some of it is like, okay, well, this one you need to have line of shot, and you could do, so the different weapons shoot differently as well. It's super neat. And you can go into the different areas and collect different things also. And then you have like the resources in order to be able to do the different things. So it was neat. It was so cool. I really liked it. My nephew played. We were playing, I think, 3. My sister, myself, and my nephew. My nephew was like, okay, this is my most favorite game ever. So it was good. Then in number 82 position is Container. I've played Container once a long time ago. Pretty sure the one I played was a second printing of this. This is the original. They've done like a I guess second edition of it. And then also the one I ended up playing had like the deluxe. So all the containers were bigger, but they all came individually bagged. So before we played, you had to open all these tiny little Ziploc and pull all the containers out. And it was ridiculous just the amount of time to pull them out. It was hilarious. And then this is, I kind of borrowed this picture from Board Game Geek just to show what all the components are. Now, this is an economic game, and it was a good one because you'll have this location where you'll generate and create the good. And then you'll have the other place where you'll be kind of selling the good. And then you have the other place where you can kind of go and transport the goods to and sell them. And then you have these other locations where you can kind of go and distribute it within the island and so on. But the tricky thing is you can't buy your own consumed, like, what I've created can't go directly into my market for me to sell. So it has to go to the next one. And like, so it crisscrosses. You can't just generate for yourself. You have to generate where it gets sold to somebody else, where it comes back. Okay, well, I purchased it, now it goes into here. It was interesting. I was so impressed with this one, and then kind of the mind-boggling where it's like, you have to trade and buy and work with each other because you can't just self-generate all these things. And then you're trying to do this and go in the middle. And then like once you're in the middle, like you're bidding for the goods that's selling there or something. And then you have cards that kind of tells what their values are. It was interesting. Like I said, I've only played this one time, a long time ago. I want to say maybe 2017. I was working an event in Edmonton and I went to visit my friend Arson, which honestly, I barely knew him at the time. I was like, so any board gaming happening today? And he's like, sure, come on over. So I went over and then we ended up playing a few games, this one being one of them. But I just remember the feel of the game was so cool. And then the way that it all worked. And then I'm a big fan of economic style games as well. I enjoy that. So that was neat. And then the final game that we're going to talk about in this video is number 81, Rail Pass. Rail Pass is so cool. Now this is a real-time game. So that means everything's happening at the same time. Some people find those too hectic and too stressful and they don't quite enjoy them. I happen to like them quite a bit. And this is a picture of when we had played it at FallCon. This is the first time I saw it and it was cool. So you have your board in front of you. You have 2 trains of your colors and everybody has goods from all the other stations that are in play. So I, like, if I'm the yellow, I think I was the yellow there. So I have my yellow trains and I don't have any of my yellow goods on mine. We got to start sending our goods and we're trying to get the goods into the train station that matches that color. And this is a cooperative game. So I have a bigger train and a small train so they can hold so many cubes on it. And you got to take the cubes from either end. You can't go and pick in the middle the ones you want. So it's like, okay, and that's all random. So, okay, well, I'll put this one over here and over here. And then I can send the train out. Now, a train can't leave the station unless there's a conductor on it. So you'll have this little pin that you put a conductor on. And then you move the train to the person either to your left or to your right. Or if you have like a tunnel, you can go in the middle to the person in front of you. And sometimes you'll have a blockade. I don't actually have access to the person to my left, depending on how hard you make it. And then you hold the train out and you kind of slide it across the table. And then you got to let them know that the train is ready for pickup by making a train noise, like choo-choo. And then you can't let go. If a train is ever, nobody's holding it, this train is lost, it's derailed. So the goods are gone, the train is gone, the conductor is gone. So you can't let go. And then the person can take this train from you, and then you can let go at that point, and they bring it into their station. Now, if the train's in the station, it doesn't have to be held anymore. But you can't have more than 2 trains in your station at a time either. Then you would take the goods that you want out, if there's any that you need. But if it's like, okay, well, this actually needs to go to the next station, so you can send it over. Keep in mind, though, you have the conductor that's from that station. A conductor can only travel 2 stations away. They don't like to go too far from home, otherwise they'll quit. And then you lose the train if it's gone too far. So it's just like it derailed as well, right? The train is gone, the goods are gone. So you got to be conscientious of that too. And be like, okay, great. I can say, no, I can't send that. That's not my, that's over. This is as far as this one can go. And then I was like, well, I don't have a conductor that can go there. And I was like, okay, I need a conductor. And then it's like, oh, well, this one can go there. Hold on. Choo-choo. And it's like, okay, yeah. So go grab that one. And then you can't, like I said, it gets hectic. But it's so exciting. And then you have a countdown. Like you have so much time to try and manipulate and send these trains back and forth between all the different stations, trying to distribute the goods to the correct station where it needs to be. It's so great. I don't own this game. If I ever come across it, I'm buying it. I want this. It was so much fun. Now, that being said, pretty sure most of the people in my household wouldn't like it. So I'd have to kind of come up with other people to play it with. But it was so good. It was so great. The components were neat. I really liked it. And that's it for this installment of my top 100. So be sure to tune in next week to get the next, and then that's going to be from 80 to 71. In the meantime, if you want, I am doing my top 50, if you want to peek ahead, on my podcast, The Board Game Specialist, with my friend Carla. So if you want to see what's on Carla's top 50, that's where you need to go. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my Instagram is Mel's_boardgame_room. And then my Facebook page is Mel's Board Game Room. And then my YouTube channel is Mel's Board Game Room. So that's it for today. Tune in next week to see what else I've got in store. So bye, everybody.